Have you ever been fined by your own neighbors for casting a line in the water right behind your house? What if the woman who calls herself president decided your peaceful Sunday morning was a threat to community standards? And how delicious would it feel when you quietly bought the entire lake they swore they owned and turned their little empire into a no-Karen zone? It was one of those picture-perfect Sunday mornings in suburban America, blue sky, calm water, the kind of day where everyone pretends the HOA is just looking out for us. I was Ethan, the guy who bought this cabin 10 years ago to escape the city noise and finally breathe. Willow Lake had been my backyard church ever since. Fold-out chair, Dad's old tackle box, gas station coffee that somehow tasted like freedom. Fishing wasn't recreation, it was therapy. The lake wasn't community property in my mind. It was the reason I paid the mortgage. Then the golf cart from hell rolled up like a SWAT team on training wheels. 3 of them. Bleach blonde, laminated clipboard, wraparound sunglasses that probably cost more than my rod, led the charge. Flanking her were Rick, socks with sandals guy who once reported a wind chime for excessive happiness, and Susan, the woman who filed a complaint because my grill smoke offended the aesthetic. Karen stepped off the cart like she was descending from Mount HOA, pointed at my rod like it was a loaded weapon, and delivered her line with the sweetness of a rattlesnake wearing lipstick. Ethan, you are in violation of Regulation 14C, unauthorized recreational angling. The board passed it last month to protect wildlife and property values. Do you have a valid HOA fishing tag? I blinked. She slapped a neon pink citation against my chest hard enough to make the coffee slosh. $750 fine, payable immediately. Result in liens, legal action, and possible revocation of your community privileges. Rick nodded solemnly like he was backing up the Constitution. Susan already had her phone out, recording for the neighborhood Facebook group. I laughed. Chuckle. A full belly laugh that echoed across the water. Lady, I've been fishing here since before you invented that rule. This dock is on my deed. I've ever seen is 3 ducks and a catfish that looks depressed. Karen's smile never wavered, but her eyes went full ice. The lake is community-managed land. Think of the children, Ethan. The classic HOA guilt trip, weaponized concern. She climbed back into the cart, minions in tow, and drove off, leaving tire marks in my gravel like they'd just busted a cartel. That night, an orange warning sticker was glued to my front door like I'd been caught running a meth lab. Escalating fines. Possible foreclosure proceedings. I read it twice, crumpled it, and smiled for the first time all day. Not angry yet. Just curious. They were dangerous. The kind of dangerous that hides behind laminated bylaws and pastel golf carts. The next morning, fresh signs appeared overnight. Fishing prohibited. HOA enforced. Violators will be fined and shamed. One was nailed right next to my canoe. Parked. I took a deep breath, walked inside, and made the call I should have made years ago. My old college buddy Tom, now a real estate shark, picked up on the second ring. Ethan, if this is about that time I told your ex she could keep the dog, I'm still sorry. Not that, I said. Actually owns Willow Lake. Not who thinks they own it. 2 days later, Tom called back, sounding like he'd won the lottery. Buddy, they never closed the deal. The lake was leased to the developer 30 years ago for community use, but the holding company never transferred title. The original owners are an elderly couple in Florida who thought it was worthless swamp. It's dormant. I leaned back in my chair and grinned, so wide my face hurt. How fast can we buy it? Fast enough to make Karen cry into her clipboard. While Karen was busy patrolling the shoreline in her little dictator mobile, handing out more citations for aesthetic violations, I was wiring money and signing papers. The couple in Florida practically threw the deed at us when they heard someone actually wanted the land. 2 weeks later, the recorded deed was in my hand. Shoreline, water, 10-foot buffer zone, everything. The same buffer where the HOA had planted their snarky little signs. I didn't rush out screaming, king and queen of the plastic castle. Karen even waved at me one afternoon, smug as ever. Glad to see you're finally complying, Ethan. Community first. I waved back, hiding the folder behind my back like a kid with fireworks. Then, at dawn on a Tuesday, I had a crew from the next county over, guys the HOA had never seen. Plant 12 hand-carved wooden signs around the entire perimeter. Rustic oak, beautiful lettering that almost looked decorative until you read them. Private property. No trespassing. Not welcome. Violators will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. By 8 a.m., that was nuclear. Screenshots everywhere. Someone tagged Karen 17 times. I sat on my porch with fresh coffee, watching the fireworks like it was the best reality show on earth. At 9:15, the golf cart engine screamed down the path. Karen skidded to a stop at the new signs near the community kayak rack, face redder than a boiled lobster. What is this? Who authorized these? This is community land. I strolled down, folder in hand, letting the silence stretch until it hurt. When I was close enough for her to see the official stamp, I opened it slowly. Morning, Karen. Now. Deed recorded yesterday. You just assumed. You've been trespassing on private property for years. And those cute little rules you invented? Adorable. But legally irrelevant. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish gasping on dry land. Rick tried to bluster. We'll sue for public nuisance. I just smiled. Go ahead. Judge why you need eminent domain to steal a fishing spot because your feelings got hurt. I'll wait. The small crowd of neighbors who'd gathered started whispering. I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. They fined me $750 for fishing on my own dock. Turns out they lied about ownership. Effective immediately, access is restricted. Same policy they love, just with actual legal paperwork this time. Karen's voice cracked for the first time. You can't ban the entire neighborhood. I leaned in, voice low and sweet as poison. Watch me. The meltdown was glorious. Karen stormed back to the clubhouse and called an emergency board meeting the same day. I wasn't invited, but the grapevine worked overtime. She apparently pounded her gavel so hard she cracked it, screaming about an invasion of our lifestyle, and this is war. She launched a campaign called Reclaim Our Lake, complete with flyers that had my face photoshopped onto a cartoon villain holding a fish like a trophy. The caption read, Irresponsible Land Hoarder. I printed one and used it as a coaster. Dark humor at its finest. Then the sabotage started, because of course it did. First, my canoe ropes were sliced clean. Then someone dumped what smelled like week-old egg salad on my welcome mat. The next week, sugar mysteriously appeared in the gas tank of my fishing boat. That one actually pissed me off. That boat was my baby. I installed cameras the same afternoon. 2 nights later, the footage caught everything in 4K glory. Rick in a hoodie, bolt cutters in hand, creeping toward my secondary dock at 2 a.m. The moment he started cutting, my phone alarm blared like a banshee. Rick ran so fast he tripped over his own sandals and face-planted into the mud. I sent the video to the sheriff before sunrise. By lunch, Rick had a misdemeanor trespassing ticket and a very public mugshot on the neighborhood app. I printed screenshots and dropped one in every mailbox with a note on the back. Private property means private rules. Respect the line or pay the fine, just like you made me do. The tide turned overnight. Aaron started tagging her in comments. You told us the lake was HOA property. You cost us our summer because of a lie. Even Susan quietly unfollowed the Reclaim Our Lake page. At the next full HOA meeting, Karen tried one last power play, demanding the board sue me for obstruction of public enjoyment. She didn't even get a second on the motion. Silence. Phelps, the quiet guy who always wore the same fishing hat, stood up. Karen, he said softly, you told us this lake belonged to the HOA. You told us Ethan was the villain. Turns out none of that was true. Money, reputation, and now our dignity. I move we accept your resignation. The room stayed dead quiet. No one defended her. From the board showed up at my door with a cupcake and a whisper, she's gone. Don't ask how. I took the cupcake, closed the door, and stood on my porch looking at the moonlight on water that was finally, legally mine. But I wasn't done. I filed papers for a Lake Haven private club, built a modest dockside lodge, added an electronic gate, and updated the signs to read, Lake Haven, membership only. Former HOA board members and their immediate families permanently banned. Because Karma's a lake, applications flooded in from surrounding neighborhoods. Veterans, families, retirees, everyone who'd ever been fined for the wrong shade of mulch or an unauthorized bird bath. I kept prices fair, gave free passes to first responders, and even started a veterans fishing tournament that raised money for local charities. The local news ran a segment. Man buys lake HOA tried to steal, turns it into private paradise. Karen, of course, couldn't stay quiet. One scorching afternoon, she marched up to the new gate in full Karen regalia, sun hat, visor, pink water bottle, rage level 1000. My employee Hal, retired Coast Guard, and college kid Mia stood firm. You cannot discriminate based on residency, she shrieked. This is against the spirit of the community. I stepped out, pointed at the giant sign. Private club, Karen. Pool was a private amenity when you banned me for noncompliance. Shoes on the other foot now. How does it feel? She glared like she was trying to set me on fire with her mind. Enjoy your little lake. She knocked over a rack of brochures on her way out like a toddler having a tantrum. The new HOA president, a reasonable guy named Leonard, quietly apologized weeks later. We got caught up in the wrong fight. I nodded. Maybe one neighborhood day a year. Board stayed ironclad. The final nail came at the town's annual community showcase. Karen showed up in disguise, oversized hat, sunglasses, and eventually slunk to my booth. She picked up a brochure, voice tight. Heard your club's doing well. Better than expected, I said. She gave that half-laugh people do when they're dying inside. Must be exhausting managing everything. I smiled. How easy it is when the rules actually make sense and people want to follow them. She stared at me for a long moment, then scribbled something on a raffle card and walked away without another word. I flipped it over later. You win. I didn't keep the card. The lake, the lodge, the laughter of kids on kayaks, the veterans casting lines at sunrise, that was proof enough. That night I sat on the dock again, rod in hand, sunset painting the water gold. No citations. No clipboards. The hard way. A few kids rode past on bikes. Ethan, you really own the whole lake. I laughed. Yep. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's patient, legal, and so complete that the people who tried to bully you end up banned from the very thing they thought they ruled. And if an HOA ever tries to fine you for fishing on your own damn dock, well, now you know exactly what to do. Sometimes the best way to beat clipboard tyrants isn't to fight their stupid rules. It's to own the game they thought they controlled. HOA power only survives when good people stay quiet. Break the silence with patience and paperwork, and watch their plastic empire sink faster than a cinder block in a rainstorm. Stay legal. Turn their lake into your legacy.